complacent man is everywhere. He's a man who does not seek anything greater than himself, a man who seeks comfort, who is always fine with where he is, a man who does not take risk or does not seek great reward, a man who will happily outsource decision-making to anything other than himself, a man who does not have a drive toward something greater, something out there, a man who doesn't want to push his will into reality, to live a vital life, one with agency that stems from himself. And today we see it everywhere. We see the man with the regular office job who does not particularly like it, does not particularly hate it, but is just fine. A man who is surrounded by such an environment that he doesn't have to make any decision at all, ever. At least not for anything serious. A man who does not take risk and does not ever attempt to do anything that might cause failure in any regard. A man who, with the outsourcing of decision-making, the outsourcing of opinions, the outsourcing of anything that matters to anyone else, does not have authority, does not have confidence, does not display agency, does not live according to his will. He is complacent. He is comfortable. He's safe. He is risk-free. He never fails. Yet he's missing something, right? He's not fully himself. Inside there is something that wants more, something that wants anything at all. There is an inner desire to be your own man and to take charge with your will and to own your domain, to take on responsibility and be able to fight the world to maintain the safety of whatever you've taken ownership of, taken responsibility for. You want to achieve success, and you do that through risk. You know, if there is no risk, there is no reward. There is no satisfaction in winning a game that is already predetermined, right? You want to bring out your creativity, your creational power, your inner will and agency. You want to push that onto the world, right? You want to be a force that changes something, that brings something into existence. So there's something missing in this complacent man. And unfortunately, we see this everywhere nowadays. We see these men in every situation, in every city. You probably know someone yourself. If not, you might be in a certain complacent position yourself, because the truth is the environment no longer forces you to be a man, right? There is this sense that you do not have to take a risk anymore. I mean, your whole identity might be based around not taking risk, right? You hide from risk. You think it's bad. You would rather be safe. You would rather not fail. The complacent man is defined by risk aversion, right? There is no sense in taking risk. I would rather stay comfortable. I would rather feel fine, you know. I will not ask out that girl. I will not ask for a promotion. I will not build my business or try to create something that you put into the public or you try to sell because it might fail, right? I will not challenge someone when they challenge me or when the environment demands it. I'm not there to push back, right? I will fall over and say, okay, have your way. Because the complacent man does not possess the agency anymore, does not possess the will anymore to push back, to be powerful, to demand something of what is around, not just fall over to feel comfortable and safe. There is a certain passivity in everything, right? There is a passivity in the way you approach life as a complacent man. If someone else challenges you, you don't do anything. If authority demand something, you do not challenge it, right? You might have a government or a regulation or a law or any authority within a company or organization or everywhere else. If they tell you to do something, the complacent man says, okay, I will do that. He might not even actually ask himself, is this right? Is this the way to go? Is what is being demanded of me acceptable to me, according to my understanding, according to my own will, my own desires? The degree to which one is creating one's own world of right and wrong and good and bad, and what is acceptable, what are the boundaries where people may challenge me and they may not challenge me, what are the things I will stand for and fight for. The complacent man is no longer developing this internal sense of I am me and this is what I stand for. These are the things I demand of life. These are the things I demand of everything around me. And so they are complacent, right? They're comfortable, they're safe, they do not fail, they do not challenge, and yet something is lost, right? Something is not there. These men are not content, they are not satisfied. There is an inner voice screaming that it wants more, and yet the complacent man tells himself every day that it's okay, it's fine, don't listen to that. It might even be bad according to that person. In their mind, they might convince themselves that what they truly want is not good, it's wrong, it's whatever, too masculine or not acceptable in the environment, or it's too confronting, it's you're challenging, don't do that, stay in your own little bubble and stay comfortable and safe. Don't try something extreme, but it might not be extreme, it might just be anything at all, right? There's also the sense that the complacent man outsources everything to the environment around him. He does not make any decisions anymore. He doesn't charge at life with a will, with decision-making power, with a desire and an ability to say, I want this, I do not want this, yes to this, no to this, and it's coming from me, right? The complacent man doesn't do that anymore. He's outsourced everything. The algorithm determines the content he watches. The authorities determine what is right and wrong, and he never challenges them. Maybe even the people around him who have a bit more agency or are a bit more confrontational decide everything that happens to him in a conversation, in a debate, in any confrontation at all, because he's outsourced it all. He can no longer make decisions by himself. He doesn't possess that agency. And of course, there is a withdrawal from the desire to be ambitious, right? To have ambition and to dream about what I may take out of this life, what I may push into reality with my will, what I might, with my agency, bring about into existence, creation, building something permanent, taking on ownership of a domain of the world, a domain of society, and having grand ambitions, or not so grand ambitions, but anything at all, anything that demands agency, that demands me putting my will out there. The complacent man does not do that. He has said, no thank you, let it go away. I do not do that anymore. I stay within this bubble, this safe space, and this is where I am, and this is where I will live. And yet, something inside of him wants more, wants something different. And so we can look at the complacent man, and we see them around in society today. We see them in our friends, in our family, in the public, in our leadership, within any organization, colleagues, leaders, bosses. You see them all around, and you might wonder, how did this come to be? Why are we in this state, and why is it that there is an inner voice that demands more of a man, and yet still you see as if it's common to be complacent at this point, right? So without blaming the current environment, we have to look at the more structural issues here, the cultural development over time, what has caused this, what is lacking from the present environment that we might argue previous times in history demanded, right? They had these elements, and now it's no longer here, and hence the men do not naturally develop this agency anymore. They become complacent. And a classic example, and a great cause to the complacency, is the fact that we do not live in an environment that demands risk from a man anymore. There is no demand for survival. You're not fighting the world. You're not living on a life and death edge every day. You do not have to provide food. You do not have to fight animals in the natural environment. You do not have to build to provide shelter for your family. You do not face these situations anymore that demand you to step up, become a man, take charge, take responsibility. When you are facing the natural world, when you're facing survival, you have to be able to be strong. You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to trust your own judgment and train it over time to be able to decide that this is the best thing to do. This is not what to do, because otherwise you face death. Otherwise you face disease. You face issues. You face struggles for your family, for your children. And so back in time, this was a default element of living, right? In all societies, the world demanded this of all men, and they had to step out and they had to man up, as you might say. They had to take on risk. They had to fight the world, and through that, they became more strong, right? They had some agency. They demanded things from the world. They were willing to take risks. There was a certain degree of having to put your will into existence, because you might have to build that house, you might have to build that wall, you might have to fight that animal, you might have to build that farm or anything else. And so in the modern day, we do not face this anymore. It's gone, right? We do not have an environment that forces you to face risk and to take charge and to be a strong, independent man that is able to deal with the environment on his own, right? There's no demand anymore. You can just follow along without ever making a decision, and you will be fine. You will be safe. You will have comfort. You will have material wealth to a certain degree. You will have what you need for survival. You might also just have infinite entertainment, so you think you will be happy. And so you just don't have this anymore, right? And that is a major cause. And there's another element of this, which is that as you live in a society that does not by default demand anything anymore, then you have to voluntarily take up risk. You have to voluntarily put yourself out there to become stronger, to become capable of making decisions, to become your own man with agency, with responsibility. You have to voluntarily take up that. And because we do not have structures and environments and organizations that do that in modern society, we traded being forced to do so by the environment for nothing. And so it makes sense that people then become complacent, right? When there is nothing making you step up to drive out in the world, to push against the environment, to put your own will into existence, then most people won't do that, right? Most people won't if they don't have to, if nothing pulls them there. And so we see this, that we do need voluntary risk-taking. We need voluntary demands. We need to put ourselves voluntarily in positions that demand stepping up, that demand agency, that demand strength, that demand willingness to take ownership and leadership and responsibility and make decisions. Another great cause is the fact that we do not have a civilizational task anymore. You know, you have on the one hand the environment that pushes you to become a man with will, with agency, with power to decide and lead and take responsibility and ownership. On the other hand, there is no longer any drive towards anything. There is no aim of society. There is no purpose that everyone is fighting towards. It is all confused and chaotic and not aligned in any way with maybe what true aims would be, with what true purpose would require, right? You see a society that does not aim towards a certain great aim for its own society, for its culture, for its people, right? There is no great demand that pushes you there. And in the past, you would also have maybe different situations that would demand something civilizational. Like if you're on the threat of being killed in war, right, by an oncoming enemy that threatens your entire society, then that is a civilizational task. Everyone aligns around that. We have to do this, otherwise our culture dies. You might also have times of building where everyone kind of agreed on the fundamental principles of what we want out of our society, and we will strive for decades, for maybe hundreds of years, to achieve that, right? And so now we're in a place where there is no civilizational task, there is no grand purpose that everyone is striving towards, and so men feel a lack of purpose, they feel a lack of drive. And a man needs a drive outwards towards the world, something to push against, something for the will to create towards, to push itself into existence, into life, and be there, and demand, and push. And if you do not possess that, then you have nothing going outwards for you. And so you're stuck internally with comfort, satisfaction, happiness, anything that satisfy very short-term desires. But this does not bring purpose. This does not bring meaning. And so you see that the people who are in this situation where there is no outward strive, they lack meaning. They lack spirited behavior. They do not possess the fire in their eyes anymore. There is something missing, and they probably know it themselves. Yet you need something to guide you towards that, right? How to step out of that. And so we can look at what this complacency does on a personal and also on a civilizational scale, right? What does it do? Why is complacency a danger, right? Why does it not lead to a happy future, a good future for society or for individuals? And you can think of a personal situation, right, where you have all this capacity, yet you do nothing about it, right? You do not respect yourself, you do not have confidence in yourself because you don't make decisions, you don't learn from mistakes, you never fail at anything, so you never get better through failure, right? You do not challenge anything in the external environment, and so you never feel the joy or the success of winning, right? Whether that's against an opponent that's a person or nature or society through a business, right? You never feel those successes. You never build that understanding that you are capable, that you can do all these things. And so there is a lack of this, right? There's a lack of decision-making power and hence a lack of leadership. If you do not make decisions on your own personal life because you outsource authority, you outsource decision making, then you are not capable of making strong decisions. You do not develop that sense of yourself. You do not develop the confidence or the skill or the knowledge required to make good decisions in environments that ultimately are not perfectly yes or perfectly no. And so you cannot lead either. If you cannot lead your own life, then you cannot lead others. You cannot lead your family, you cannot lead your group, you cannot lead your friends, you cannot lead any organizations that you try to build or at any point in the hierarchy of an organization. You also, you do not build anything, right? You do not use your will to create something in the world, in the environment around you. So you never build, you never create. You're not creating a better future because your will is not doing anything, right? You're not pushing into the environment, and so you don't build, and as a result you look back at your life and you haven't built anything, you haven't done anything. Your will as an individual, as a man, did not create something in the world, did not push into the environment. And so that will lead to regret, right? There is the famous quote of, you regret more through inaction than through action, right? You fear or you regret the things that you did not do much more than the things that you did do. And the things you did not do usually involve decision making and risk taking, right? Why didn't you do it if it's what you wanted? Probably because you feared the risk, you feared the failure, something else. But in the end, you will regret that. There is also a sense of what this leads to on a civilizational scale, right? Because, okay, you have complacent men in this situation, and as we just described, the effects that it has on your person. But what does that do to civilization, right? What does that do on a grand scale? I mean, there's no one building, right? There's no one creating. There's no one bringing their will into existence, either as, an organized group or as individuals. And so your society is not building either. Your society is not striving towards a greater future, something more, something better, something that aligns with the true desires of the people, right? Something that makes the lives of people better, maybe more stable, maybe more worthy, more meaningful, more purposeful, right? These things are not being created. At the same time, you are not giving yourself freedom, right? You're not, if you outsource all the decision making to authorities, to something else, then ultimately you will not enjoy having freedom, right? I mean, freedom demands taking responsibility, it demands accountability, it demands decision-making power and agency. Freedom demands that of you. And so, if you are a complacent man, you do not want freedom because you are not capable of handling freedom. And so, as a result, we will see the evolution of society in the same way, where there is less freedom, there are more rules, more regulations, more authorities, because the men do not want freedom, because they are not capable of handling freedom. And this is a very dangerous situation, and we can see it with the increase in bureaucracy nowadays. It is an effect of the cause that there is no longer agency, there is no longer desire to make your will reality, right? And as a result, regulations are welcome, more rules are welcome, limiting freedoms are welcome because it's less decisions to make, it's less hardships on the complacent man, it's more comfort, more safety. But these are not the values that a man truly desires. These are not the true desires and the true aims of a man. They do not align with his inner being. They do not align with that voice that screams, this is what you need to do. This is what you want to do. So go out and do it. Make it reality. Put your will out there. Stand up for yourself if someone challenges you. Stand up for your ideas. Be a decision maker, someone who can take on the responsibility of saying yes when in your head it might be a 60-40 decision. Take that responsibility and take that ownership. This is what a man wants. And so you need to start challenging yourself, right? We need to lead to that place. And how we're going to do that, and the other elements that are crucially important for avoiding the complacent man on an individual scale, but also on a civilizational scale. These are things that will be covered more in the future episodes. Not just this, but also other types of men and the types of issues that we might see on a deeper level and how we can handle those.